Alrighty guys, so we're gonna try continuing with the UCs. This will be prompt number 3 about talent or skill. Let's just dive right in. The question that it's gonna be asking is right there. What would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So it's a two-parted question. You gotta not only tell me what your greatest skill or talent is, you also have to show me how you've developed and demonstrated, applied that. Things to consider. If there's a talent or skill that you're proud of, this is the time to share it. You don't necessarily have to be recognized or have received awards for your talent. Although if you did and you want to talk about it, feel free to do so. So basically, you want to resume flex if you can, but it's okay if you don't have anything to resume flex with. If you don't have an award or certificate to showcase for it, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't write about it. Sometimes the best talent or skills don't have awards or accolades or certificates attached to them. So that's why they're saying this. Why is this talent or skill meaningful to you? Does the talent come naturally, or have you worked hard to develop this skill or talent? Does your talent or skill allow you opportunities in or outside the classroom? If so, what are they and how do they fit into your schedule? So again, this is just a second part of the UC prompt asking you to introspect on your response here. I'm going to put this as a reminder for all future essay writing. 90% of a good essay comes down to research and how well you do your research first. I see a lot of scrub potatoes that just want to sit down and start thinking about ideas, and they're just wasting their time. Guys, if you want to be a professional, if you want to get better at writing and be more efficient, spend less time thinking, just use the internet. Start researching first. Gather your sense of what the responses are out there. Use the online guides and read through some of the examples that you can find. Because if you do that, you're going to have a much better starting point. You're going to have a much better understanding of what are common answers, what are cliches, and what are not. And you'll also be able to connect with certain responses or suggestions that they give you that personally resonate with you. So, number 1, identify the sub-questions of the prompt you need to answer. We just did that. Prompt number 3 actually has 2 parts. Then it's do your research. I'm going to show you some of the things that I'm going to do, and then gather your ingredients. As you're doing your research, you're collecting some ideas. Oh, that sounds really good. Oh, that fits me really well. And so you're gathering these thoughts, gathering these ideas, and then from there, you're going to go into drafting and revising. Important tips that I want to go through here. Let's see if some of the guides that I'm going to cover today go through some of these tips as well. You want to show through examples. You want to introspect. You don't want to just tell me how you were some amazing student all through and through. We need to have a growth curve, an arc. We need to see some things that you started with that you were very newbie and beginner at, but then through time you developed, got better at, got stronger at, got smarter at. Hardship, growth, aspirations. Aspirations refers to things towards the end. So now that at the end of the essay you've developed and applied the skill or talent, where does it go next? Are you all done? Is it game over? Usually you should always end an essay kind of thinking about how you're planning on continuing to grow, how you plan on continue to apply this talent or skill towards the future. Another thing I want to note is usually when you're talking about talent or skill, music and art are kind of common, very generic. It's not to say that you can't write about them. It's just I've seen enough of them where you got to write something pretty special about it if you really want to stand out. Try to think of more specialized and specific instances of your talent. Let's take music, for example. If you just say that I'm very into music and I play the cello or the piano, right? That's not really as interesting. Imagine a student saying that. I'd probably say, I don't know, in terms of music, 90% of students who write about music are going to just talk about what they perform and how they do it. If you got more specific than that, for example, if you said like specifically within, I love to do jazz and do improv. And it's where you have the improv opportunities between minors and majors and creating discord in the harmony to then bring that back through what techniques you use, certain types of scalings that get you back to the right kind of, I don't know, musical note. I'm kind of making things up as I go here, but I hope that makes sense that if you're going to be doing music and art, try to be more specific. That specificity is really going to help you stand out more. End with a reflection, as I mentioned before. Show confidence in what you wish to apply your talent and skill into, and then continue to think about how you want to make it grow. So let's see if we can take a look at some of the guides. So again, we're just going to go on Google and we're going to type in UC prompt guides, and I went ahead and pulled up a couple of these. So I have the College Essay Guys, CollegeAdvisor.com, Blog Prep Scholar, and Collegevine. I'm going to go ahead and link these in the descriptions below. Here's the College Essay Guys. So they say, tip, don't choose an abstract quality that's already clear from your application. If you say something that I'm hardworking, it's likely to be redundant. Why? Because chances are GPA and coursework already show that. I think that's really good advice. You want to make sure that you're talking about specific, tangible skill sets, and then from that comes talents and qualities that that could be more introspective. But hardworking is not really, if I had to be honest with it, that's kind of an expectation. You can't be saying this is my talent or skill. How are you hardworking? In what way are you a hard worker that manifests into certain types of like abilities and skills, such as your ability to organize or your ability to rally people together, or look at a challenge and break it into pieces. The breaking into pieces is also kind of a cliche, to be honest, but another tip, make sure you connect your quality to specific things you've done. So it's asking for you to be specific. One more tip, if you pick a sport for this prompt, it can lead to PIQ, that's bland and basic. That's a personal insight question. These are like the UC prompts, they're called PIQs. So they're specifically singling out sports. I can agree with that. I think that if you're going to talk about sports, your greatest talent or skill becomes very predictable. Because if you want to be very good at basketball, either you're a very good shooter or you're a very good passer or you're a very good driver. And then that's kind of the end of story. So if you're going to do something like sports, it's better for you to focus on, again, that advice about specificity. Within playing basketball, do you have this intuition when it comes to bending the rules like James Harden does, so that when it comes to trying to eke out an advantage against your in heavy competition, you can do the step back three or something like that. And then how that then goes beyond just sports, how you apply that to other things in life, where you try to think outside of the box. Maybe when you're going into your robotics competitions and you're trying to see if the rules can allow for you to have an extra battery or something of that sort. With that being said, yeah, I think it's pretty basic. Good to read, but I kind of would want more. Let's check out College Essay Advisor. So Essay Advisor here says this UC Essay asks you to do something a little different from other UC PIQs, to brag about yourself. I disagree with that. You're not supposed to brag. Of course, you will want to keep a humble tone. There you go. So you want to brag about yourself, but keep a humble tone. I would synthesize this into, you want to explain things that you've developed a confidence in. I want you to point to things that you have grown and applied and realized you can bring into any situation with a sense of confidence that you can apply. So yeah, all right. However, this UC prompt is asking what you do best. Not necessarily, but yeah, in this UC PIQ, you should write about a time when you stood out or a time when you were the best at something. Yeah. Do you have an interest in hitting talent? If so, this might be best for you. Talent versus skill. Interesting that they're trying to separate that. Let's see what they say. If you're having a hard time thinking of a particular talents you might turn to the second option in this prompt, a skill. A skill can be anything from accomplishment to a trait you like about yourself. Perhaps you never fail to make your friends laugh, even in the most stressful of situations. I love this. I think if you had, I don't really think there's a difference between talent or skill. I don't think you have to go into the weeds and go into the semantics of this, because I would say it's a talent. It's a personality talent to be able to keep the mood light in difficult situations, or to have a sense of humor that can break the ice and bring people together. So I don't think you need to be so worried about talent versus skill. They're kind of the same for me when you're trying to answer this prompt. But I love the example here, right? Never fail to make your friends laugh. Always bringing a lightheartedness to a situation is a super underrated talent. Maybe your biggest strength is that you're an incredibly empathetic person. I'm okay with that too. I just feel like students who write this can get very generic very quickly. So I sat down and I listened. So your skill is listening. Not a bad skill in real life, but in terms of essay writing, I've heard that way too many times. You could provide anecdotes and times when empathy has helped you, perhaps to understand a friend when they needed help that they couldn't articulate. The The problem with this is that, so let's say I've read essays before where you're helping a friend and they're very sad, but then you listened to them, you were empathetic, and then you supported them. I think that's a good skill, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's an impressive one for colleges and when you're writing essays. Perhaps you might benefit from it when you're thinking about writing all 4 essays to put it into like one of the 4 to well-round yourself, but I'm not really impressed with empathy, to be honest. I would ask, if I'm brainstorming with a student, I'd say, besides empathy, what else do you got? Another one of those things I'd even to say is like empathy is one of those, I hope you already have it. I hope you've already established it. Kind of like hardworking. Hardworking and empathy should be kind of defaults, guys. You shouldn't be looking at that like it's your strength. You should expect to have that in all of us. You will want to include a narrative arc in this UC essay. Agreed. Here, a mission officer is looking to read a story of what your talent is, how you developed it, and why it means so much to you. I love that. Very good advice there. So what is your talent? How have you developed it? Showcase it through example, and then reflect on it. You could describe an obstacle you faced, performing skill or talent, and then demonstrate growth, how you overcame that obstacle. And then it's going to give you an example. And I'm not going to spend the time in the video to go through it. You guys feel welcome to. They have feedback of it. Yeah, check this out after. Let's move on to the next. So this is Prep Scholar prompt and instruction. What's the question asking? Basically, what's being asked here is a beaming rave. Whatever you write about, picture yourself talking about it with a glowing smile on your face. Geez, man, this is some Dr. Phil stuff here, man. I feel like we're getting into some very interesting kinds of advising here. It's not really, I get it, I sense it. It's a glowing smile on your face. So you want to be very happy to showcase it. You want to, and as I guess like a confidence. I'm very confident in what I'm about to show, to explain as kind of my skill or my talent. I don't really think you need a glowing smile on your face for this, though. That's kind of funny for me. Part 1, narrative. First part, the question really comes down to this. Tell us a story about what's amazing about you. I don't think it needs to be what's amazing. Sometimes it just needs to be what you've worked really hard to become good at. Have you done an outstanding thing? Do you have a mind-blowing ability? Describe a place or time or situation in which you were a star. So they're overdoing it, I think. I feel like you don't need to say that you're amazing at something. Your greatest talent or skill could be something very solid and something that you grinded through hard work and through time and experience. So too often students feel afraid to approach this prompt because they're saying, but Jay, I didn't do anything super exotic or super special. And I feel like when you're asking questions like this, it leans towards that. But that's not the case. I think sometimes the greatest talents or skills can be something super humble and basic. Like, for example, your sense of humor and your ability to keep things light and your ability to see the light in times of darkness and things like that. Violin, insurance, military accomplishment, but the word quality really gives you option. Okay, let's read this actually. A close read of this first case of the prompt reveals that you don't need to stress if you don't have an obvious answer. Sure, if you're playing first chair violin in the symphony orchestra, that qualifies as both a talent and an accomplishment, but the word quality really gives you the option of writing about any one of your most meaningful traits. And then the word contribution and experience open up the range of possibilities you could write about even further. A contribution could be anything from physically helping put something together, or to providing moral or emotional support at a critical moment. Yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. So you start off with this, and then you rug pull me with the explanation. That's cool, I guess. Let's see what else it's saying. But the key to the first part of the phrase, important to you. I agree with that. Absolutely. Why is this important to you? If you personalize it, so this is kind of asking you to personalize your skill or talent. Why is it important to you? Because it's a skill that could be useful around the world and in typical circumstances, but if it's a skill that's important and relevant to you, sometimes that can help to reveal personal backgrounds, personal circumstances that you grew through. So I like that. Once again, what you write about is not as important as how you write about it. I think they're both important. Being able to demonstrate the importance of the event that you're describing reveals much more about you than the specific talent or characteristic ever could. Part 2, insight and personal development. The second part of the last essay asked you to look to the future. The second part of this essay wants you to look at the present instead. The general task is similar, however. Again, you're being asked to make connections. How do you fit this quality you have or this achievement you accomplished into the story of who you are? A close read of the second part of this prompt lands on the word proud. This is a big clue that the revelation of this essay is looking for something that should be a very positive one. I agree with that. In other words, so you're looking for not pride, but confidence. I think there's a distinction there. In other words, this is probably not the time to write about getting arrested for vandalism. Jeez, pro tip, guys. This is like, I usually say pro tip sarcastically. I hope you guys maybe caught that in my previous episodes or videos, but like, this is like straight up pro tip. Beat me. Unless you can spin the experience into a story of how you've been stranded in this. Okay. Okay, what are UCs hoping to learn about you? Mission officers are very straightforward, interested in learning about your accomplishments. By the end of high school, many of the experiences you're most proud of don't tend to be the kind of things that end up on your resume. That's true. I'm really happy they wrote that. I think that in the essays, you shouldn't be trying to reflect something that's already going to show up on your activities. So for example, if you know, your essays can maybe hint about it, but if your greatest talent or skill is really like being first chair violinist, that's really going to be redundant to your application because your application is already going to show that. So you want to instead be focusing on maybe, asides from being the first chair violinist, how as the first chair you've learned to rally your orchestra mates together, especially when the band conductor or the orchestra director was sick for like 2 months or something, and you guys had to still find a way to practice to make sure that your December winter concert was going to go well. And so how you then developed certain skills or applied certain talents to ensure that was the outcome. They want to know what makes you proud of yourself. Is this something that relates to performance, self-cognitive thought, to keep it kind of cool in crisis, to ability to help others in need? So by now we've already heard keeping a cool head in a crisis. Makes me feel like when you're doing research and you go through 4 or 5 different examples or 4 or 5 different guides, you'll start to see, one of the advantages of researching is that you'll start to see which ones are very common. So then you'll know, okay, so many other guides are suggesting these as initial starting points. Can I be more specific than this? Can I put a twist to this? Just a thought there. I just realized that I've read this 3 times now in other forms. At the same time, they're looking for a sense of maturity. In order to be proud of an accomplishment, it's important to be able to understand your own values and ideals. I really like this. This is introspective. I think this is really good advice. So it's not just telling me what you did and how you created a good result. It's being able to introspect on it and realize like these are the things that I value more, and which is why I want to continue to grow and apply my skill or my talent in XYZ ways. This is your chance to show that you truly get the qualities and experience that make you into a responsible and grown-up person, someone who will thrive in the independence of college life. In other words, while you might really be proud that you managed to tag 50 highway overpasses with graffiti, that's probably not the achievement to brag about here. This is kind of whatever to me. Man, this keeps going. Look, if you guys are interested in reading, go ahead and be my guest. Maybe I'm jumping the gun too early here, but let me skim through it real quick. Explain your field. Zoom into a specific experience. I really like that. So make sure that you're being specific about your experience. There's a conflict that creates growth. Remember, there's a growth curve. You don't want to just tell me, oh, I'm super talented or skilled in this. Yeah. So growth. Wow. Okay. I'm going to move on. Let's see Collegevine. Let's see if they could do any better. This is really short. Let's see. Although it would be easy to list all the awards you have won and the activities you're best in, this prompt is looking for something deeper and more meaningful. Absolutely agree, Collegevine. It is perfectly fine to describe an activity you're dedicated to, but also think about the character and personality traits that tie into the activity, such as tenacity, honesty, and compassion. A little on the generic side, but it's a good starting point. But I'm 100% on board. Collegevine to me is hitting it right. Let's see. The key is to elucidate why this activity is worth putting all your time into and how your personality strengths are exhibited through this activity. Absolutely. This is great, guys. If you're going to have to follow one guide, follow this one right here. Describe the beauty, the meaning of the activity, convincing the administrative officers that this activity rightly takes precedence over everything else. Do not be put off by this prompt if you have not won any big awards. All the prompts ask for is what you think is your greatest talent. I love this. I love this. Collegevine, you are hitting it all. Make sure to address how you have developed and demonstrated. So experience, right? Example, experience, and growth. You're hitting everything, Collegevine. Have you shown your talent or skill to other people? Have you won competitions to performance with any of your examples? Go ahead and spend the time to read through some of these examples, guys. In a nutshell, though, I think Collegevine does it the best. Gives you the most concise information about what you need to do and how you should approach this prompt. I think that at the end here, let's see, I want to leave you guys with some research tips. Again, like I said at the very beginning, and I'm going to continue to reinforce and remind you guys of it in all subsequent essay videos that I post. Guys, really good essay writing begins with good research. You have to spend the time to research first. Don't just sit down and try to wing it. It's not ever going to be as good as compared to if you spent 1 or 2 hours reading some guides, checking out what's cliche by seeing what's online, right? So the things that I would Google before you start writing this talent question, skill or talent, I'd look up unique talents or skills that relate to your example or experience. So for example, let's say you're a sports captain, team captain. So qualities of a great team captain, qualities or skills of a good team captain, like that usually will give out a lot of juicy options for you to kind of look through and parse through to select and determine what are personal to you. I am not asking you guys to plagiarize, okay? I'm simply saying all the answers, the answer bank is out there. It's called the internet. And your job is to be able to look through all of it and piece together the ones that really match with you the best. Try to break down the talent or skill into smaller pieces, actions, or steps. Identify how your talent or skill can be applied in surprisingly different areas. So for example, if you have, as a team captain, you've learned certain types of skills, by the end of your essay, you could talk about how you're developing those skills, answering the second part of the prompt, by openly applying it to other areas in school or other subjects or other group situations. Yeah, I hope that this was helpful, you guys. Make sure you're doing your research before you start writing. Talent or skill doesn't have to be something that's, by any means, it doesn't have to be something that's based on an award or accolade. And make sure that you guys are introspecting and showing examples and growing. Alrighty, guys. Hope this was helpful. I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to try to do 2 more today, and so you'll hopefully see those uploaded. All right, ciao.